Okay, that's enough of that. Get rid of this text. Close this tab. Okay. Hello, welcome to Left for Random Talk, a podcast that me and my friend Rev do every Thursday. I forgot to mute myself in Discord. Hooray for me! Yay. But yeah, this is a podcast that we do every Thursday. Me and my friend Rev, and sometimes we'll have people in the call that we don't expect or that we're hoping to expect. Right now, Rev is just passing the link around, which is fine. And I am trying to finish a hot dog, but the flavor is a little weird. Anyway. Let's see. What do we got today? Wait a minute. 1, 2. We have roughly 7 topics today. Oh, Equinox has joined the call. Was not expecting that.
Alright, hello, are we good? We're good?
Yep, I've already done vague intros. We're good. Just need you to read the topics.
Okay. Alright, let me go get the links for the topics then. Where is the link? It's like, and I seem to have misplaced it. Joy. Just gonna move my mic a little closer. Alright, here we go. So, tonight's topics are games with a cartoonish aesthetic. Do they usually do well or not so good? Zelda Wind Waker and Metroid Prime Federation Force as examples. Zombie games, are they good or just repetitive as hell?
Yes.
Old. Okay, then there we go. Our topic is done for the night.
That's it for tonight, everybody. Thank you. Just kidding.
Old PS2 games that had odd gimmicks to them, yet were interesting. Run Like Hell as one example. Our favorite fictional empires we like in games and movies. Clone Wars series versus Rebels. Why did Rebels suck so much? No Man's Sky got a mega patch to the game. It's actually worth getting? And the last one, hold on. Did he ever respond to... No, he did not. Again, I guess we're pushing that to the next Thursday again.
So we only have 6.
It's better than nothing. Fuck. Oh well. So yeah, that is our topics for the evening tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Alright, let's see which is the shortest. Or I guess the shortest we could get through first. I guess we'll go with games with cartoonish aesthetics.
Yay. Like, what were we talking here? It was like Spyro level cartoonish or SpongeBob or what?
I believe just in general would be a safe bet.
Oh boy.
You know, well, personally, I have mixed opinions about the cartoonish aesthetic in certain games, but not like not overtly negative. It's more like, does it work for your game, or is it just kind of like an attempt to appeal to more people?
I think I have to think back on like an episode of like SGB.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to think. Did I say that one right? Super Gate. Yeah, I said that right. I had to think back on like SGB. Like they're talking about games and how the game style works with the cartoony look, and how some games don't work if it has cartoony. And I think like let's say you're doing a very heavy action-packed game that's rather dark, and you have cute little teddy bears as the main protagonist, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Same can be said like vice versa. Like you have a beautiful, vibrant, cute land, and then you have somebody from Street Fighter just walking through. Or Mortal Kombat. That would be horrifying.
Mortal
That would be
Kombat.
horrifying.
No, Mortal Kombat makes more sense because Street Fighter does have kind of like a cartoonish
Yeah.
or comic bookish kind of look to it.
Well, still, the characters do look very serious.
Exactly. Yeah, like they have a cell that's its cell
shade
look. The only the two of the games that kind of come to mind for me when it comes to like as a cartoony aesthetic would be like Battleborn, for example, which I don't have much of a negative thing to say about it. Battleborn doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time, it has kind of like this sort of what would be a good word for it? A kind of a serious atmosphere to it at the same time. And the only thing that I can think about is this feels like it should be more ham-fisted, silly, cartoonish than what it really should be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like again, you can see it in like a lot of the character designs, like Montana with the gigantic body and the world's smallest head,
Eating Fruit Loops.
eating Fruit Loops.
I love that guy. I haven't seen a single ounce of gameplay, but I like that guy.
What's actually I have that image of him eating the Fruit Loops right here.
Yay!
Fancy that. I might as well put it up just for the shits and the giggles.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. I guess you could call Battleborn's Borderlands Light version.
Oh
I say
gods, man, Montana is so.
I legitimately like, as silly as he looks, I legitimately like him as just both a character and design.
Like, he could take on the tank from Left 4 Dead 2 and probably win.
Exactly. And in fact, what I actually love is that I kid you not, there's a whole section of the game devoted to audio logs, and in one of them, Montana submitted a song to replace his homeworld's national anthem.
Oh,
and it
God.
was just it was this silly country song, and it's incredibly good. Like I actually enjoy how it sounds. And as this thing and as it goes on, like one of my favorite lines is, atop his tiny legs he comes. And I'm just saying this, I'm like, yeah, they are kind of small. He has a weird body type.
Well, he skipped leg day and a bit of neck day. But the rest of him, holy crap. That is...
He's huge.
There is some genetic thing going on there, like some sort of experimenting. I don't know. That is just not natural.
Yeah, exactly. There is something going on with that guy, and I don't want to know what.
I'm a little curious about that mushroom.
That mushroom is actually a medical shaman.
Okay, now I'm a little nervous about that mushroom.
Like, hold on. He's not dangerous. He's not evil. He's very spiritual, wisdom, wise. Has lived a very long life.
All right.
Good person.
Yeah.
Well, good shroom, I should say.
Good shrooms, man. No, like Battleborn and Overwatch actually kind of turned this topic on its head a little. The world that they're in is very cartoony. It's like you're walking through a comic book. It's really nice looking, but what's going on in the game, like the mechanic of the game, you're killing each other, is very dark.
Exactly, and when you bring this up, but this is the thing I want to stress here, though. This is the thing. What Overwatch does well with the oh god, what's the word? The cartoon slash comic book aesthetic is that it doesn't exaggerate the design.
Yeah.
Like everyone has a pseudo realistic proportion or proportioned body, and the world itself is not like It's not like a cartoon. Like you said, it's ripped from a comic, but in a good way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like if you were to like it's like if you were to take something out of the game and then try to make it look realistic in our modern world, it would look no different. It would look fine.
Hmm.
And that's the thing I think Overwatch does well in this regard. Whereas Battleborn uses its cartoony aesthetic to overly to go overly drastic with character designs
They
and
literally
body
go Saturday
proportions.
morning cartoon.
Exactly. And you say that, and my only thought is in this entire thing is actually I want to say this. The intro and the outro cinematics for Battleborn is is hand drawn, and it looks like something straight out of, like you said, a Saturday morning cartoon, like something out of the old He-Man or something close to it, you know?
Oh boy.
Not okay, not the super early He-Man, but I mean like
I got
when
that yeah song in my head now.
you you know what I'm trying to say.
I know what
It's
you're
just
trying to say. Yeah.
all right. But when I see this, my only thought in this whole thing is I got a feeling this is what the whole game should have looked like. Like ditch
Hmm.
the 3D aesthetic, just go pure 2D um comic book. Just go
Oh,
for it.
oh, that also reminds me. The game Hot Lava. Like
Also that.
the entire game is like there is actually like a Saturday morning cartoon played as the intro, but it's all in like 3D, like the same style as Stormhawks and Dragon Booster, stuff like that. That kind of 3D style. But like
Hmm.
the game itself is kind of scary, fun, and a little frustrating, but scary because you're playing a toy that's avoiding lava. When you jump in, you see yourself freaking out and burning, and when you respawn, you still see yourself freaking out and burning in front of you. But you don't care. You're just jumping along.
Exactly. And this is something else I want to bring up about Hot Lava specifically is that everything is done in a realistic style.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the backgrounds, and it's all realistic, but the toys, since they are toys, are made to look like a cartoon toy. No, excuse me, a cartoon toy, and that works
Yeah,
very well, actually.
I think
And
the
then,
only cartoony game that takes the dark edge and really
mhm.
goes with it, and nobody questions it really, is Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, but it's a weird sort of dynamic because team like way back in the day, like when this was being first. Actually, I might as well look it up. First being created, it was they were going for a more heavily cell shaded look, and everyone had a more quote unquote um, real look to them, to the point where it looked more like oh god, what's it called? It looked more like a comic book, like a traditional comic book, than it did a um what it does now. Uh, if I could find something like that, because every freaking modder out there has decided to incorporate that original look into their like models and things like that. Like I'm trying to find the original. God damn it! Yeah, look, the point is that it looked extremely uncanny valley, and if I don't doubt that if it stayed the way it was, it wouldn't be nearly as good a game as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, again, that is saying a hell of a lot. Because actually, if you look at the concept art for Team Fortress 2 specifically, everyone is drawn in the concept art as someone straight out of like a very old comic book, like the ones that didn't have a consistent style to it. I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, it as the game progressed and everyone began to change, as Valve changed it sort of slowly but surely evolved into what it is now. And actually, I think that it works well for it. However, that said, as well, it's kind of also led a sort of like a lot of the original story for like some of the characters, like their bios, I meant to say,
Hmm.
was a lot more twisted. Like the one that comes to mind immediately is the Pyros, and that's because in the original bio, it was more creepy. Like it said, like nobody knows what's underneath the mask. All you can ever really see or tell that this thing is alive is that horrible breathing through scarred and ruined lungs. Its lips barely there. That's about it. Like that is
Yeah,
again, and when you and now you see the pyro, and it's like, oh, he's lovable. He likes
it's
fire.
fun. Everybody loves that bit in the comic book where Smokey the Bear confronts it and then he takes out his axe. It's like,
Wait,
no,
let
I
me
will
see if I can
continue
find
to
it.
catch things on fire. Uh,
Yeah, it's just okay. I found it. I found it.
yay.
I'm just to put it on screen so people can laugh a bit.
It's been a long time since I've played TF2. I don't know if I miss it or not.
TF2, I would say, has kind of lost its luster, but not because people um, hate the game now. That's not the issue. I think it's more to do with the fact that people are just kind of, I don't know. TF2 just kind of seems to me like a like something for kids now, which is ironic.
Yeah, that's very weird.
And yet now, like for example, the Gary's mod, a lot of them started off doing things from Gary from TF2, making some amazing looking stuff with TF2. But as things kind of evolved and people got used to more better design models, the things of that nature, TF2 just kind of fell off at some point, and people were like, let's go for more realistic approaches, and never
Yeah.
look back. It's kind of like that friend who no, it's like kind of like you when you start first drawing and everything looks kind of silly and you want to do more kid friendly stuff, but as you grow older, you start making more um, realistic looking things, like with your art and things of that nature.
Oh, you're actually talking about me.
No, not you. I meant just in general.
Because that's actually been happening with my art.
Well, you could say that as well. It doesn't have to be exclusively that.
Mm.
Yeah. Uh, right. But like I said, it all just kind of boils down to how these cartoony games kind of play it. Like another one I know, which is never gonna age well, in my opinion, is gonna be Borderlands. Actually.
Oh, God.
Well, let me be fair.
The art
Let me be
style is
upfront.
great. It's just. Mm,
Well, no, that's the problem I'm getting at. The art style is a heavy comic book shading, but unfortunately, due to this comic book shading to it, it doesn't line up proper. Like not line up properly. It doesn't make sense in some way, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
uh, for example, when Borderlands 1 was coming out, everything was cel shaded, but it had a very realistic aesthetic to it. Everything was designed to look as real as possible. In fact, some of the earlier stuff I remember seeing. Um, let me see if I find it. A lot of the stuff for Borderlands that was coming out was very heavily realistic. Like a lot of the creatures look more real. The art style was not as invasively comic bookly cartoonish as it was now. That said, it's just kind of you see this and your only thought in your mind is, am I going to should I take this seriously with a grain of salt? But not in a good way. And I guess you could attribute these failures more to Randy Pitchford, the guy behind the series, and his terrible, terrible sense of humor. Yeah, he's the type of guy to make an orphan joke at an orphan and laugh, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a good person.
Well, granted,
Not a
the
good-
characters themselves don't even take themselves seriously.
Yeah, but then this leads into a stupid dichotomy when it comes to Borderlands, specifically in 2. There are very serious moments, and they try to play them as seriously, but then you're kind of like thrown out of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Because after you do this very serious thing, then you're probably thrown into some silly side mission, and it deflates the tension. I don't know. Like, I'm gonna be completely off. What?
Equinox, who's in the call, by the way, is
Okay.
also put in the chat. I am friends with twins who play TF2 constantly for 5 years straight. Played Warframe, called Warframe too repetitive, went back to TF2.
Which is ironic, all things
Like,
considered.
Warframe is repetitive, but at the same time, like, it does change things up. Like, the map is
And
not always the same. There's always gonna be something different. There's always gonna be like more enemies or less enemies. There's gonna be different variants every time. It's not too repetitive. TF2, dear God, you're
exactly.
set in stone.
In fact, uh, whenever they release something new as well, it always just kind of comes incredibly short. Like, we'll use this as an example. Mercenary Park, for example. This
Mm,
entire, well, Jungle Inferno in general.
I saw the trailer for that. I actually really enjoyed that.
But
Please let there be
this
pants.
is what I'm
Please let there
getting
be
at.
pants.
Well, hold on. This is what I'm getting at here with Jungle Inferno for a moment. A lot of the hats and map ideas actually came from the TF2 workshop several years, in fact, before this happened. Same with the alien invasion. Most of the maps came directly, no, sorry, most of the maps and hats, I believe, came directly from the fan community, and so on and so forth. And this has been something that Valve has slowly but surely kind of given up with TF2. It just is fan things that are finally added to the game after years of waiting with very little to no innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this is a problem with the fact that as a game and as a phenomenon in general, I believe TF2 has kind of run its course. No one's interested in this wacky fighting, team versus team game anymore. Now more people are kind of interested again in Overwatch specifically because there's more. Overwatch takes itself much more seriously. In fact, to use Overwatch as a bit of a springboard, what was it called? Uh, oh God, there was an event specifically surrounding Blackwatch. The group of
Yeah. All the costumes changed for those who were part of Blackwatch.
yeah, and what I liked about it is that Retribution. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The story is self-contained and yet is done in such a way that you enjoy it. Because this is if you look at the story's cutscene in general, it shows that this is the moment where Mr. Reyes turned from being, someone who looked up to the ideals of Overwatch and just kind of says like, you know what, fuck it, let's just start killing people, and we'll actually put an end to evil. The whole, if I
Yep.
look into the abyss, will it look back at me?
Yep.
However, that said, it also added more things to it. It showed us character evolution. It actually showed Talon as a serious threat, added new enemies in, even though they were reskin. Well, some were reskins of like the multiplayer characters. They were still done in such a way that that you could fight them as a challenge. It wasn't just the multiplayer version of something else. This has been something that Blizzard, or Activision Blizzard, if you want to be more technical, has been good about. They create something new, they add something new to it, and boom, there we go.
Yep.
Whereas TF2 just kind of takes what the fans create and just slaps something together and say, boom, here you go.
I think the last story thing they did was the one with the tumor bread. And how long ago was that?
5 years, I want to say.
Yeah. Like at least that kind of made sense because it was still following like the comic they were doing. But now it's been years since the last comic update, and the only popularity TF2 is seeing is like people are taking a quick glance, seeing how terrible the players have suddenly become, like how terrible the community has suddenly become, and seeing all the funny memes that they can poke at, and then leaving it alone.
Exactly. Like, here's an example I want to bring up, and this is like to use the fighting game community as an example, right? Or as an event, for example. Everybody knows Evo, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use, I believe, was it 2000s Evo event, something specific? And there was a particular game, a version of Super Street Fighter Turbo, I believe, that people nobody liked because it was a very like trash port of a game. So there was a lot of shit wrong with it. So nobody was going to play it, professionally. And when those professional players didn't show up, it allowed the most scrubbiest among them and the most no talent, no skilled players among the community to kind of rise up in popularity, and has actually led to the gigantic and overly inflated ego of one particular who claimed he was the greatest American player because he got fourth above 3 Japanese players. Not even third, just fourth, which is saying something.
Wow.
And this is what I'm getting at, and it isn't just people who
You're cutting out.
like it's how bad.
It's not too bad. We just don't know what you said like after the Japanese thing.
Yeah, what I was saying is that it leads into like this. It leads these scrubby people or these no skilled people to rise in the ranks undeservedly, and that's mostly because I guess the talent or the stronger players aren't around, which leads people like that fourth place winner to um to claim fame undeservedly. That's what I mean. So when you bring up the whole like, oh, TF2's gotten worse with players, it's likely to do that the good ones have left, and a new generation in quotation marks here of players has quickly surfaced, but because there's been no competitive edge from better players, it's kind of led to the whole what's the word? It's kind of led to this whole like evolution has come to a stop, and now it's just infested with weak, weak, and weak. There's no strong or very powerful. No, it's just all weakness. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
I guess like to wrap up the topic in general, the cartoony aesthetic only works if like the game itself works with it. Like
exactly.
you can have a cartoony shoot 'em up where you're fighting zombies or something absolutely horrifying. It only works if the entire game works with the style.
Exactly. It's kind of like why you don't see. I guess the best example would be like those old movies that crossed live action and then animation in the same vein.
Like Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Exactly. If you don't set it up in such a way, it's going to look hokey and not as interesting as that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying the movie's bad. I'm just saying it's like you can tell something's not right. That's
Cartoony
what I mean.
shoot 'em up, PVZ Garden Warfare. I actually really like that game. I find it kind of not very creative though. Like the characters themselves are creative, but choosing to basically be Call of Duty with plants and zombies, cool. With plants and zombies, maybe just try to make something your own. I can imagine. Anyway, carrying on.
Yeah. So I guess we'll move on to our next topic, right underneath this one. And that is zombie games.
Are they repetitive as hell? Yes. Yes, they are.
Extremely so.
Oh my god. What zombie games can I think of? They're similar. Dead Rising. Killing Floor. I have Killing Floor, by the way. Left 4 Dead kind of changed it up, but at the same time they didn't. Call of Duty Zombies. Dear God, that was terrible. I remember watching my brother play, and I didn't like it. The Last of Us, that one was really good.
Yeah, but it still falls under the same issue of it's the same story beat for beat.
The Walking Dead. I have no interest in that at all.
I watched the first season of the game because you're not really playing it, you're watching it if anything. And the entire time I'm watching this, I mean, it's fun. It has good storytelling. It's actually worth sitting down and watching. That's fine. The problem comes in the second season, where it basically takes all your choices and basically says, "Well, now you don't have those choices anymore." It doesn't take away choice. Let me rephrase that. It takes away the difference. Like, okay, you choose to leave this guy, let this guy live, good, but he still dies anyway. That kind of shit.
Yeah, it just makes makes you go like, what was even the point? That kind of thing.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't actually matter.
Exactly. After that, I just stopped. I was done with The Walking Dead in general. I was like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. That's where I left it.
I tried watching somebody play it. I only got as far as the farm, like right at the beginning of the game, and I went, yeah, no, I don't like this. I don't even like watching the show.
Neither do I.
Granted, like, Telltale makes pretty good games. They're all basically the same, but some of them add different mechanics.
Yes, like actually the one I'll talk about the most, or the one I'll probably say is the most intriguing, is the Batman series Telltale games, because the story is so incredibly interesting to the point where I'm like, you know what, I could, like, normally I'm not too big into the comic scene, because I hate when a story is rebooted after it's been finished. I hate that. I really do. It drives me up the wall. However, the only two Batman things I actually enjoy from start to finish is the Arkham series and the Telltale games, because they're incredibly creative and bring new dimensions to the character. I'm like, you know what? I'm fine with this.
I haven't seen anything of either. I just know that that the fighting in Arkham was rather interesting.
It is it's very counter heavy.
Yeah.
And very rarely will you get hurt from the enemies if you're good. Let me stress that.
Get good.
Exactly.
It was it's sort of like a Dark Souls ish.
No. It's more like this. You get a prompt, which is like Batman's Spidey sense, which allows you to push a button to counter the enemy before they make the impact. But it's so fluid, it makes you think that you did it yourself, like muscle memory. It's very creative. But it punishes spamming, so you have to actually watch the enemy and learn when they're going to strike to then push the counter button.
Yeah.
It's very skill heavy like that. Actually, like I said, I played it and I can say safely it's fun. Now onto the issue of the zombie games themselves.
Oh god.
My big gripe against any zombie game is not just the gameplay, but it's the overall story of a fucking zombie game. And that is, we're out here surviving and we have to survive. Okay, but what else is there? Am I just wandering around doing fucking nothing? And that's what pisses me off. There is no end goal. There's no driving motivation for you to do anything. It's most of these zombie games just end with the outbreak is never cured, your character barely survived the outbreak, it's on to the next game.
I hate that.
Exactly. The only one I can safely say had my interest was The Last of Us, but only about like most of the game. At the very end, when they have a chance to cure the disease, the cordyceps thing, and actually stop it, I was like, oh shit, we're actually gonna see the story come to an end. That's good. But no, no, it ends with just Joel rushing in, dooming humanity because he likes this girl now as a surrogate daughter. And that pissed me off because again, it's sequel baiting for itself, and I'm so done with it. In fact, that whole thing ruined The Last of Us for me. I don't care that a second game is coming out. I don't. To me, it's dead and buried,
The
and no amount of like.
games that actually take the zombie thing and do it right, though a little repetitive, but they do it right and they actually have a cure there, is Dead Rising and Resident Evil.
Exactly.
Resident Evil is built up on the aspect of you need to keep yourself vaccinated, you need to keep yourself cured from this stuff, not you are looking for the cure.
Exactly. And Dead Rising is kind of similar, but not exactly. It has the same beat, I should say. And that's the thing. Like, what I love about Resident Evil is that the viruses you have to encounter and the creatures, yeah, sometimes they'll be the same. Like the typical zombie, the licker, maybe the hunter. That's fine. But the games always come up with more creative viruses or more dangerous aspects to them, to the point where I'm like, I'm not bored. I'm curious to see where does this infection.
That is actually something very interesting to me. They show the zombie-like virus evolving. In Left 4 Dead, we do see that, but it's not enough. It's still the same hunter that just tried to pounce you 20 minutes ago. It's the same model. It's the same thing. You're not seeing anything new. It's just the same guy over and over and over again, no matter how many times you play the campaign. But when it comes to like Resident Evil and all of their games, the first game had zombies that moved really slow. They all looked different in their own way. Some didn't have an arm. Some had a giant eyeball on their arm. We know what I'm talking about there.
Yeah.
But then there's also those monkeys, and I'm actually having to really rack my brain about the mutants that show up here. But we had like the monkeys, we had the giant moth, we had the lickers. Come like the second game, the lickers have evolved. There's a spider now, there's a snake, there's a crocodile, there's all these weird there's even sharks. And that's that's actually the one I wanted to get to, the shark. That is the one thing that has changed the most. Because is it in the first and second game?
It's only in the first game.
Okay.
You're talking about the Neptune.
Yeah. The shark is in the first game. But we see it again in later games, and it is completely different from what it originally was. Because what it originally was just a shark with boils all over it.
Yeah, it wasn't just that. It was, you could tell the shark had been dead for a while. Like, you can see the dorsal fin is horribly ripped, the the jaw is completely messed up and mangled, yada yada yada.
Yeah, and yet when you get taken out of it or something.
Yeah, and then when you get to Resident Evil 6, there is a completely new species of this mutated shark, to the point where it looks more like it could evolve and grow legs than it would be for water.
It has like tentacles in its mouth too. Its jaw splits in different ways. That is a prime example of a virus evolving, and that's what viruses do. They adapt, they evolve, and in like zombie games, we barely even see that. But Resident Evil is able to make that work. That's how their games keep going. The virus evolves to look different every single time. It's a new name, but it's still very much a zombie virus.
Exactly. And the other one I want to bring up is you bring up Resident Evil and you bring 1 and 2, and one of the big things I need to stress is that in Resident Evil 1, they flat out explained what the Crimson Heads, the zombies that are completely red and are more like mangled, that their claws are growing, that kind of thing. They
Yeah.
actually go through the trouble of explaining what the hell's with them. And it turns out the lickers are actually Crimson Heads that evolve into that. And what we're seeing in Resident Evil 2 are just there's been so many zombies and they've been changing and evolving for so long. We are now seeing an infestation of lickers more so than zombies. That is something that flat out doesn't happen in other zombie games at all. It's just, oh no, a virus happened, and oh
Mm-hmm.
no, it's just boring to the point where I'm just like, I'm dead to this thing. I'm like, okay, whatever, just get on with it. I'm done. Just get to the end so I can say,
With Resident Evil 6, we see like the virus evolution just go out of control.
exactly.
Every single chapter is something new. It's still the same virus, it's just something has changed.
Yeah, and like it's not even like what's the word? They go into some detail with certain creatures, explaining that this creature is made because the virus gestated for this long, or it's in response to heavy trauma, and yada yada yada. In fact, if you pay close attention to specifically in Resident Evil 6, you know how there are some enemies who have guns, and then suddenly their arm just grows freakishly large.
Yep.
They actually go into explain that based on what kind of area gets the most trauma, a mutation will occur
Yeah, I
to
remember
adapt to
that.
the pain.
I remember that.
And they show it. And when you fight more and more enemies and damage them in different ways, they will actually evolve and adapt to fight. It's something that other zombie games just do not do. Like I said, Left 4 Dead with the special infecteds. But like you said, it's just this. It's the same models reused. There is no variation, or there's no moment where we see an infected suddenly become a special type. Like you don't see a zombie starting to cough and wheeze horribly, and then suddenly its tongue just shoots out of its body.
Well, the only time we actually, well, we don't actually see it, but we do hear it. But we hear something like that is that guy in the gas station. Or, no, sorry, the church, where he rings the bell.
Exactly.
You have a chance of having either a tank, a smoker, or what was it, like a hunter?
Yeah, and in rare cases, a witch as well.
Yeah. You have a chance of this guy turning into a different special infested, but, like, it's still the same generic model.
Exactly. There's nothing about his transformation that sets him apart from the others. There's no like special piece of ripped clothing or an item he drops. No, nothing like that. It's just, here's the next hunter we have to fight. Oh
I think
no.
the only time we ever see something really different is if it's like a chapter based thing.
Exactly.
Like, what was it, the sacrifice or something, where there's a tank that's bald and in shorts, and he's a lighter color, like he's new.
Or there's even the U.S. Marine versions of the tanks that have the tattoos and all that stuff.
Yeah. And then there's the rather rare survivor zombie. It's the same generic zombie, it's just they got goods on them.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell, like me and Rev have played Left 4 Dead 2. I've played it a lot. I know
Exactly.
the audio cues. I know the mechanics of the game that causes a certain special to spawn to fight you. It's just, unless it's a chapter based thing or a game based thing, the models are never going to be unique.
Period.
period.
The only thing I can say that Left 4 Dead does well or different, and I mean like in both games, let me specify that specifically, is Left 4 Dead 2 does, to its credit, introduce, what was it, three special infected, three new ones? That's the spitter, the charger, and the jockey.
Yeah, those were new to Left 4 Dead 2. But then it didn't really matter because the Steam version of the games added those three to Left 4 Dead 1.
Exactly, which ruins the whole point. So, like I said, at that point, why making such a distinction if we already know? Look, and we get that we're probably asking a lot from Valve at the time, mind you. But would it have been so bad to just create different, not just models, but different kind of things for each infected? Like maybe every once in a while you see a tank without legs and he's just kind of, what is it, hand walking towards you with his spine hanging out, or just things like that. Special infected that just look different or are just so badly damaged that they just can't be. You just can't help but wonder what the hell happened to you.
Yeah.
That's it. And getting to that as well, we also have the other issues of the infect. And again, this is going back to the issue I have when it comes to the zombie games. Not only is the end goal or objective pretty much the same, the constant survive this or do that or blah 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 blah. It's also the same issue of um, creativity is just completely and utterly shafted.
Have you seen that game called We Are Billions?
Uh,
It's
Let me
it's
see.
like it combines a colony game like SimCity or something like that, like RimWorld or Europa. But it also
Mm-hmm.
like takes StarCraft and zombie survival and it combines them all together. It's a very difficult game, but you're surviving the zombie apocalypse and building a colony around it.
Yeah, actually, that's another thing that these games fail to do, and that's they never innovate on what's going on with the world. You never have a zombie game at all that takes place during some period of time after initial infection and after people have gotten used to it. You never played that. At least not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
It's either just as the infection occurs or a little after initial infection occurs. It's never like, oh, it's been years since the first infections come out and now people live in secluded areas and you're one of the guards that have to routinely patrol areas and make sure they don't come in. It never happens.
I think another zombie game that kind of changes is Don't Bite Me, Bro. But it's still basically fortify
Mhm.
your place, survive the zombie apocalypse, you're screwed. And you're.
Hold on.
Hmm? What?
Hold on. My audio broke. Hold on.
Oh, well, that happened.
All right, am I back?
Hi.
Okay. Yeah, no, my audio broke.
What did you last hear?
It just went brrr all over the place.
Yeah, that happens to me sometimes.
Okay.
But there's a game called Don't Bite Me, Bro. It's a very, very cartoony game. It's like teeny tiny chibi characters running around surviving the zombie apocalypse. You're building a fence around your house to defend it, and every now and then you walk into the city to rescue people, but they have a chance of being killed.
Hmm.
And it's rather it's not really a game I'm into at all because you're just doing the same things over and over again. You're cutting down trees, you're fortifying your place, you're going into town to save somebody who has a chance to die. The person who gave you a very short, very fast tutorial got killed, and there's nothing you can do about that. It's just the same thing over and over again. Survive the zombie apocalypse. There's no cure. Do what you can. Goodbye.
Exactly, and this leads into that extremely annoying cycle of pure repetitism. In fact, even whenever a game comes out that's new or promises to innovate something like like Dying Light, for example, it falls for the same pitfall. It's the same damn boring and repetitive concept of, oh, you gotta survive. In fact, it's actually no different than Dead Island. It actually is.
Mm-hmm.
If you really look at it, because it's the same game. You're playing a zombie game from. Oh, hold on, I think I lost one. Oh, it was
Equinox is left.
okay. You're playing the same first-person zombie killing game like the other one. And in fact, I should have probably used this as well as an example for the previous part, but oh well, fuck me. Um, Dead Island is actually gone through this horrible identity crisis to the point where one of the games, let me see if I can find it. I think it was called Riptide. Let me see. No, Riptide is, I guess, the sequel to the original. Okay. But there was a Dead Island game which was extremely cartoonish to the point where I'm looking at it, and yeah, okay, here we go. It was just called Escape, and it just didn't matter. In fact, let me bring it up to the screen. I'll send an image so we can put it up for the folks. There you go. All right, there we go. Hopefully.
What the heck?
Yeah, that's Dead Island. It looks like shit.
What?
Mm-hmm.
That is awful
Like I said,
looking.
the series has undergone a humongous identity crisis. Where before it was a very realistic game,
Very
kind of
gritty
close
too.
to, yeah, very very close to Left 4 Dead. It's now turned into Sunset Overdrive.
What the hell? That was actually another game. Like, I completely forgot the name of that. But that's another game that's cartoony. That is an exception to the previous topic. Because it's cartoony, but also serious, and is an exception.
Yeah, hell, they even created an iPhone game which looks worse in terms of like cartoon, even worse than that. And it's exactly like that We Are Billion game you told me about. It's the same thing, except a lot worse, and for the iPhone. None of the original cast returns for the game, period. It's just Sammy B. Honestly, I know this is going to sound like a controversial opinion, but I actually don't like Sammy B that much.
I bet.
Well, I mean, his music's alright. I don't mind that. It's just the character just kind of bores me. It's like, okay, he's just Sammy B. You know, he doesn't catch my attention. And cue the hundreds of people who are going to call me racist later on. Whoa. But no, like I said, it's just these games have taken the aesthetics of Dead Island, which again it was a very heavy crafting first-person survival game with interesting zombies. Like I'm gonna be honest, I liked some of the zombies that they had, the special infected. You know, uh they were incredibly unique in terms of like you don't expect to see them. Like the zombie in the straitjacket, he's humongous.
Hmm.
And in this entire like as you fight him the entire time you're questioning like if I keep shooting his back, is his like jacket gonna break and he's just gonna rip my head off? You know, it's that weird sort of like you don't know if this guy's dangerous or not. Like you don't know if you're what you're doing to him is uh, a good idea or if it's
Yeah,
something you have to do.
like that was another thing about, like, I don't know if you already said it. I barely heard it.
Hmm.
Um, Dead Island actually had unique models for each and every zombie. Like,
No, I didn't say that,
yeah, like
or we didn't cover
sometimes
that.
you'll find it, like if you run into a bikini zombie, they're missing an arm and half of their torso, and then you see another one, they look vastly different. They're a different skin color, they're missing a different part of them, they have a different bikini. They all
Hmm.
look different. Even the special ones looked different. And you
Yeah,
never
and
knew
they
what you were going to see in like the cutscenes that introduced them.
exactly, and not only that, but each of the special infected, when you encounter them, makes sense as to how they uh in the environment they're in. You know, every time you meet one, it makes sense to see one. Like if you were to go to a prison or something, you'd see the straight jacket one, or if you went into a flooded area, you'd see one of the drowned, bloated corpse zombies.
I vaguely understand the one that's at the search and rescue area, the lifeguard HQ.
Hmm.
Because granted, some of those guys are buff. Like, holy crap.
Well, this is a little bit of. By the way, this is a bit of science with Rev. Our bodies are much stronger than what we can do.
Yeah,
However, the only reason why we can't access these reserves of strength is because they would physically destroy us.
yeah,
It's too much. So it's safe to assume that with these zombies, they were probably bodybuilders, but when they got infected and died, these muscles just never stopped growing or evolving or anything of that nature, and it just wound up happening how it happened.
yeah.
At least that's the best explanation I can think of. If anybody else has something they, a better theory, please share.
My only
I'd love to
comment,
hear it.
like, to finish up like Dead Island, is that that game really makes you crave energy drinks.
It's perfect product placement.
And yet not a single thing actually has product placement.
I'm calling it now. They tried to get like either Pepsi or Coca-Cola to sponsor the game, but they couldn't get the rights to it. So they
So
just changed.
so everything is an energy drink. There is no such thing as water. Just drink energy drinks, you'll be
ex-
fine. There's no
ex-
way your
like I
heart
said,
is going to be filled with holes by the end of this game.
exactly, and that's what I'm getting at. The I'm telling you, it was supposed to be some sort of advertisement, but they just fucked it up because they couldn't get the rights. I'm like, fuck it, just make it energy drinks. Just fuck it.
Yeah, those people's hearts are royally screwed.
Yeah, if it's not the adrenaline that's already ripped their heart out.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, like I said, these games, zombie games can be interesting if the setting is right or if the models and characters you create for the game are alright. That's the best I can think about, really. But it all falls onto, I guess, the game's creator, the creative vision behind it. Because if you don't have vision and you don't have creativity for this shit, you're gonna make a pretty bad
Yeah,
game.
but like as our recommended idea, change the formula, please. At least try to change the formula.
It can either be story wise, you're waking up after infection and the world's just how it is, or make it different. Just do something that isn't the
Mhm.
same goddamn shit, please.
Like, we just praised Resident Evil, but even Resident Evil has become repetitive with the zombie stuff.
Well, but this is the crazy thing. The games had the same mechanics to it. You know, tank controls, third-person controls later on, and then first-person controls.
Yep.
But yet, they did so much interesting and creative stuff around those mechanics that they're actually worth playing and doing.
This is the thing about Resident Evil. The story and how the infection works, like, doesn't have to make sense. Like, turn off the logic and the science side of your brain for 10 fucking minutes to enjoy a fucking video game, to enjoy Resident Evil. Resident Evil 5 is still my favorite. I don't understand the logic behind Irving, but I love it.
No, hold on. That's the thing. You say it's never explained how the infections happen. No, the game actually go into...
I know how it's explained in the game. I mean the logic. Like, every time I watch somebody play Resident Evil 5 or 6, doesn't matter, the character suddenly blows up into this large thing, and the first thing this person says is, where did they get the matter to turn into that? That's what I'm talking about. Turn off the logic. Just enjoy the game. It's a video game. It's not real. It doesn't have to make sense.
Well, hold on. This is the thing. I'm going to defend that just for a second. And this is going back to the other Resident Evils. They did go into detail with, like, it isn't just like in the cutscenes or anything. There are files and other things in the other games which kind of explained how these creatures came about. Like, they go into detail. It's just Resident Evil 5 and 6 dropped the ball with that intel bit when it comes to the larger creatures. They just never explain it. That's the thing. But I agree. Turn off your brain for this bit. But don't turn it off when they actually tell you, hey, this is how Irving became a giant lake monster.
Yep.
That's all I gotta say on that.
Yep. Like, when what Jesse and Cryotic call boob, like side boob, the lady that's always by Wesker's side in the 5th game.
Oh yeah, side boob.
Good old side boob. That would actually make sense. Like, they actually calm the whole where do they get the matter for that thing down by leaving corpses there for her to absorb.
Not just there. I mean, it's safe to assume the entire ship is just full of dead things.
The 6th game was still very weird when the entire ship changed like that.
Oh yeah, that was just...
Nope.
No, there's one thing about Resident Evil Revelations, the first one I actually like, and that is, in that game, you fight a giant infected whale. And the thing, you see... Well, here's the crazy thing. You think the whale is the thing. Like, it's actually the thing. No. It's infected with a parasite inside its body. That's the crazy shit. You're not just fighting a giant infected whale. You're fighting the semi-husk that is being controlled by parasites, which are fighting you on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and look that up. Because people need to...
I like that giant crab thing in Resident Evil 5. That was always an interesting fight to me.
The giant crab... Oh, yeah.
On the most motion sickness inducing elevator in the world.
This elevator causes motion sickness. Enjoy, fuckers. Hold on, I'm trying to find this thing. Like, I'm trying to find, like, a good image to kind of, like, encapsulate just how fucked this thing is. And the only problem is I can't find anything because this thing is too fucking big. It's just okay, this is gonna be the best I can show. Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone, that I couldn't get it better than this, but yeah, it's a giant whale. What do you expect? Actually, I think it's a humpback whale, to be honest.
Well, I have to see for myself. What the fuck?
Those tentacles are the parasite.
That's a humpback whale. That is indeed a humpback whale.
Poor thing. Like you can't help but feel a little sorry for it.
Like the thing with like humpback whales and blue whales, humpbacks have very narrow lower jaws, and blue whales have very wide. They have an underbite.
Mm-hmm. Still, the fact that again, and this is in the ocean too, which I love it. You're not just fighting zombies; you're fighting mutated, humongous water sea life.
This is another thing that Resident Evil really like took out of the ballpark when it comes to zombie games. Like when it comes to zombie games, a zombie dog is common. It's overused. Resident Evil, we could top that. We got a tarantula, we got a shark, we got a crocodile, we got a moth, we got a fucking whale. They even like
now we have a whale.
Oh god, the Chinese streets in Resident Evil 6 where you fight those pieces that are of a pig, like a pig's head and stuff like that.
Oh god, yeah.
That is horrifying. But like Resident Evil doesn't keep it solely for humans and dogs. They stretch beyond. It's as though like what is it? The species barrier doesn't exist for these viruses.
Exactly. These viruses ignore the species barrier. They can jump from creature to creature. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna infect it. That is how serious this infection is.
That's how serious the games make it.
Exactly. Though I do want to ask, like, and this is just a silly little thing, but Godzilla versus that giant infected whale.
Oh dear God.
Movie, come on.
That's
That'd be amazing.
something I've noticed. Like, we know that in the games they drop nukes in certain places to wipe it out because the heat evaporates the virus immediately. It just disintegrates it. Would Godzilla's radiation do the same thing? It's very likely because like there's there's like 3 different types of heat, and one of them is radiation. Like when you see,
I don't.
Carry on.
No, I said I believe that would work. Because if we're talking like atomic breath or his body heat in general, it should be enough to wipe out small levels of the infection if he goes through certain cities that are sick with it.
The thing is, Godzilla has the ability to do the EMP blast from his own body.
So that also could work. Mm-hmm. Just bring the giant monster out.
Like by default, Godzilla is immune to these illnesses.
Yeah, because his body's too hot for them to survive it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's actually something the games do stress, is that depending on the body heat of certain infected or certain, not people, but just cadavers in general, I guess you could say, it can't manifest. There are actually creatures that fail to adapt with the infection, and they wound up as either failed mutants or just immune outright. So there's that.
There's also those that aren't able to adapt to the illness and they just flat out die.
Or in worst case scenarios, mutate into something 10 times worse.
Because like the tyrant strain is horrifying, but so specific.
Yeah, the exact number for people to become a tyrant is 1 in 10 billion.
Yeah, it's extremely rare, but oh man.
Mm-hmm. But they exist. Mm-hmm. It just takes this specific genetics manipulation, and boom, sometimes you can get a tyrant. Anyway, I think we've rambled on enough about this topic.
Yeah.
All right, but still, like I said, Godzilla versus zombie whale. Toho, make that happen.
Poor zombie whale. I have actually noticed that he has never fought an undead monster, and Mecha King Ghidorah does not count. Oh shit! Wait, yeah, he has. Mechagodzilla 3 is built around the bones of the original Godzilla. Never mind, ignore me.
Which is then possessed by the ghost of that original Godzilla, isn't it?
I feel bad for that robot. I feel so bad for him.
He's just looking around, he's like, wait, when did I get pants?
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. He's just looking at his hands like, no! Alright, moving on. Alright, the next topic we will tackle is old PS2 games that had odd gimmicks to them, but were interesting.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, the
This
first
is
thing
gonna
that
be an
comes
interesting one.
to my head is like Conker's Bad Fur Day, but that's not PS2.
Mm-hmm. I think I
Oh
may have been
god.
a bit too specific with those.
Just like the
Let me see.
PS2 era consoles.
Yeah, I think
like
I meant to say that.
Xbox, GameCube, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's it. Like I said, the one that comes to mind is the game called uh, Run Like Hell, and it's exactly as it sounds. The premise of it is that it is a sci-fi third-person shooter-like game, but it plays more like what's it called? Uh, Plays more like Resident Evil,
Ah,
and one of the big marketing points was is that um, at certain moments when the monsters would come and get you, you would have to the character would turn around, and then you would run down a hallway while still controlling the character, like an interactive cutscene.
yeah.
Which for the time, obviously, was one of the more amazing and remarkable things. Though nowadays it's kind of commonplace.
God, a game like that for me is the giant truck from what is it, like Sonic Heroes, something like that? Sonic
Yeah,
Adventures?
Sonic Adventure
I
2.
have lots of memories of that scene. Like you could get a full workout on your ass watching somebody play that scene.
It's
I
just
don't
hell in a
care for the
handbasket.
run like hell segments, like where you're timed and like you have to keep your distance from this guy. I don't like those. They make me so stressed.
Mhm.
Granted, the
Well,
giant
that's the
truck is
thing.
really cool.
Well, that's the thing about these games, or this game in particular. Those sections were so few and far between that it really didn't matter in the long scheme. It played, like I said, it played more like a third person, actually more like a Resident Evil game, a traditional one. The only other saving grace um, that Run Like Hell, subtitle Hunter Be Hunted, which mm, its only other saving grace was for the time it had some rather creative aliens. Like some of the, like I said, they all came in different sizes and varieties, which was kind of amazing for the time. And the enemy, which turns out to be some sort of proto, well, not even proto. It's a mutant creature that kills other people, but specifically for their parts. And then it'll just add these pieces onto new forms and just literally create new creatures. The big scene I'm thinking about is there's a moment where the main character spots a very spindly looking mutant, and as he's watching it, one of the crab or spider enemies you fight is missing one of the many limbs. So it just rips off a chunk, someone's perfectly preserved arm from the wall, or I believe the floor, and tries to attach it to the spider, but it doesn't hold at first. So it just kind of starts taking the stumped end and just smearing it with the wall biomatter, and then adds it to the spider, and it actually moves it like it was its own hand, which is creepy, crazy.
Yeah. It
Like
almost feels like it's a Dead Space game before Dead Space.
exactly, and this is something games even nowadays never try to do: create a truly horrifying enemy that doesn't see you as a threat or even food. It sees you as spare parts.
Oh, so it sees you as that one piece, that one Lego piece buried underneath the thousands of Legos in the bottom of the tub.
Exactly.
I fucking can't find that eyeball anywhere. That was like my one
Pretty
big
much.
problem. I couldn't find the eye. Where does it go? And then I find it, I make note of it, and then it's gone again. God damn you, Legos. You're so much fun.
Yeah, but this is the thing I liked about the game. It's just it was crazy creative for the time. You know, and I kind of feel bad that a sequel it didn't do well. It never got a sequel. Though now with the day and age of the internet, I'm sure someone will attempt to create their own version.
Yeah.
There was another one, a different game. I think it was for the Dreamcast, like Call Center Help or something like that. And oh god, what was it? Its basic premise was you um you play as yourself. Like the idea is that your character is locked inside a communication center, right? In on a space station.
Yeah.
And as this is happening, there is a female waitress outside, and you talk to her and you tell her, "Look, I'm trapped in here. Monster place. Come help me." And you actually controlled the game through your voice. You would tell her to wait, go, fight, etc., etc. Though I'm sure there was an option to just play it with the control. I just can't remember the name right now.
Mm.
Cast. Oh shit. Okay, let's try Dreamcast microphone games because I need to remember what this game was called. Was it Dreamcast or was it different? No, it was Dreamcast, I believe. Oh god, this is gonna be bothering me for a long while.
Yeah. And now I'm thinking of a very stupid video.
I hate this. I hate when I can't remember what it was called. And it's just it's gonna drive me up the goddamn wall now. Well, I'm just gonna look up top 10 lists until I find it. I remember it made one of these lists. It's bound to be there. But anyway, is there any other game, PS2 era game you remember that had this kind of like gimmick to it?
That had the run for your life gimmick.
Kind of not exactly the same thing, but similar.
I want to say Pepsi Man. That's totally different. That's more like Crash Bandicoot right there.
Oh,
Oh
another
man.
one we could. The other one you could say was a heavy gimmick game, could be, or horror game at the time. Could be the Clock Tower series if you want to go there.
I've never seen those.
The base, it's more. How do I put it? It's basically a 2D version of Amnesia.
Oh.
And the basic premise of the Clock Tower games, at least the first few I remember off the top of my head, was you are playing a little girl, or I guess a damsel in distress in general, who is trying to hide a from a serial killer who uses gigantic pairs of scissors to kill his victims. And the idea is that you run away from him and hide in various different places. But the catch was you had to hide in different places. You couldn't hide in the same location in the same room twice, or else he'll figure it out and kill you. Which is crazy. Let's see what else I can find here.
Oh gosh, there was a game that played similar to like Alone in the Dark and all that jazz. And it's another microphone game. I remember seeing it on
Alright.
X-Play at one point, and I loved that show, by the way.
Uh-huh.
And you controlled a girl using your voice. You told her commands, and somehow she would actually be able to do them, even though it was very, very janky at the time. Like, if you told her to
Uh-huh.
pick up the flashlight on the dresser, she would get confused. And, like, and she'll actually ask you, the player, like, do you want me to walk over to the mirror? No. Flashlight. And you have to really enunciate, like, keep trying to talk to her. I remember, like, one of the clips was that, the host actually managed to get her to bark like a dog. Because she'll even ask the player, like, do you want me to bark like a big dog or a little dog?
It's
And,
like, the fuck? No.
like, at the time, that was, like, the most amazing AI I had ever seen. The AI understood, like, what you were saying.
Was it full 3D, and was she wearing, like... Wait, what was the setting? Can you
It looked like she
remember?
was in a mansion.
Okay, then it's probably not the same game I'm thinking about, because
Oh,
it
definitely not,
almost
no.
like the one.
She had short. I remember she had short hair, blonde. Kind of looked like the chick from Resident Evil 6 with the blonde hair. It wasn't her. I just don't remember the name of it. I just remember seeing, like, I sometimes go back to that clip whenever I'm like zoning out. I remember that clip. I don't remember the name of the game either. This is gonna be probably a repeating thing.
It is, and I hate that. Let me try old. But yeah, the other thing about it as well is, oh god, what's it called? The other bit about these games as well, like, it isn't just the horror games. Another one I remember vividly that tried to do, or one of a few games that tries to do things differently for the time, was the Parasite Eve, games. And what's incredibly creative about them was that they combine the aspects of Final Fantasy's kind of RPG mechanics. You know, the whole turn style mechanic, but the difference is that you could actually move and kind of like set yourself up so you could avoid taking damage from the enemy. And if you could play it right, you could actually like never get hurt while playing the game. I mean, it's impossible, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And what set these games apart was it really did feel like playing a Final Fantasy style a semi-horror science fiction game, and it was very very fun, very well received. And then Square Enix lost the rights to it, and then tried to make a third game, which basically they had to say, "Oh no, it's not her," or just kill her off unceremoniously. Yeah. Oh, actually, speaking of incredible AI, by the way, the Thing video game actually had some pretty good AI to it too.
Oh boy.
Like, well, basically, you know how the Thing movies go. Everyone's suspicious of everyone, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
The crazy thing, the crazy thing is that these games actually had a sanity meter for the people you played with, the NPCs, I mean, and depending on what you were doing, they could either start losing their minds more quickly or slowly, and they would actually become incredibly distrustive. They would hold you at gunpoint, say, "How do I know if you're human or not?" Or, "You're a thing," or, just freak out in general. And that was something that nowadays most what's it called? Most games don't even try to do. Or if they try, they do it so poorly that it's just boring as hell. Again, how is it that games from this era successfully managed to do this where modern games cannot? I would like to know. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think we're not really gonna. What is it? I don't think we're gonna figure out any more. Like, remember these. I suppose we should just pretty much end the topic here, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. All right, I suppose we should start the first break of the evening, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we will be going to take a quick break, and see you then.
Yep.
All right.
So just between me and the audience, I'm going to say this. I say this every time we take a break. I'm going to play the intro music on repeat. If you don't want to listen to that, that's fine. Just tab away. We're going to take a break. I don't know how long it'll be exactly. The card says 5 minutes. It's not always 5 minutes. We'll be back as soon as we can. Just give us some time. Get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, call your alien overlords, whatever you need to do to feel comfortable in your human disguises. And we'll be back when we can. Alright, that's enough of that for now.
All right, and we are back.
Yep. I have dry
All right
cereal.
then. Okay then. So on to our next topic of the evening. Pose. I guess we're down to 3 now. Our favorite fictional empires we like in games or movies. I think this is going to be a rather short one, actually, all things considering.
Mm-hmm.
Ow. All right, and I'll let you go first.
I don't got one.
Really?
Yep.
Why?
I don't got one.
You are boring, you know that.
Every empire that I have come across are terrible.
All right, point taken, but still, some are. All right, no, most of them are bad. Okay, I take your point.
The
All right,
Grineers
well, I guess.
suck. I'm not a fan of Star Wars. I don't care for Star Trek. Let's see, what else was there? Skyrim wasn't that great either. That one was absolutely terrible. I don't have one.
All right, well, I guess I'm going to be the one that says his then. Despite my leanings towards Xeon, I actually have a preference to Helgen.
Great.
What? What's wrong about being
I
a
knew
Helgen?
you were gonna bring up Gundam.
I said, despite my leanings towards Xeon, I prefer
know.
Helgen.
I know.
Helgen has nothing to do with Gundam.
I know. I knew you were gonna say something Gundam.
Alright, well, like I said, I have a preference towards it mostly because the uniforms are quite nice, snazzy, and, well, frankly, they're pretty badass. Their soldiers
Spooky.
actually. Yeah, and the intimidation factor. Have you seen their helmets? You're literally looking into the eyes of death right there. Oh, goggles of death, I should say. Still, I can respect a strong empire, especially one that has been able to last this long, or lasted that long. I can't say the same about Xeon, unfortunately. No unification. All fell apart within a single year. Which is quite tragic, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, like I said, at least Helgen lasted for a good 20 or so years. That's saying something.
Yep.
I guess technically they're still around. It's more of the Helgen state now, all things considering, but we're still around. We're still there. We still have the amazing gas masks, ships, and technology. You know, we still have our radiation guns. Oh no, we don't. But we still have our robot dogs. That's all that counts. So yeah, I was kind of hoping we'd had somebody else here to kind of break the stalemate, but I guess not. Fuck.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, I guess we're moving on to the next topic then.
That was fast.
Well, if you weren't boring.
I'm sorry, but none of them are good. No, I don't like any of them.
So yeah, like I said, if you weren't boring, gotta stop. I'm just busting with you. All right. Well, if any, I guess I can direct this to the fan. If anybody here watches our streams and enjoys some of the, has an empire they like to fight for their own glory or the glory of the empire, please let us know in the comments. I'd like to hear how you support Xeon and or Helgen. It's like, and now I'm painting the bias. All right. I guess we're moving on to our next topic then. Ironically, since you were talking about Star Wars, the Clone Wars series versus Rebels. Why did Rebels suck so much?
Because it had to live up to the Clone Wars.
I knew. The thing about Clone Wars was, yeah, it was Yeah, it was aimed towards children, but it was actually decent. Like a lot of the stories were incredibly creative and amazing, and they actually dedicated entire episodes to people who weren't part of the Star Wars movies. So there were actual stakes involved in minor roles. Crazy, isn't it?
Mm.
And and not only that, but they came out with so many interesting characters. At least you had the breakout of Ahsoka Tano, you had Captain Rex. Oh, any of the clones actually were amazing. Some lived to see, well, now others just kind of died, which is sad. Kind of
Yeah.
tragic, actually. Even and again, they dedicated entire things to the Clone Wars series, like very adult or mature themes, things that you wouldn't see in many contemporary uh, TV shows nowadays. Like I said, the clones actually fighting with the issue of you know, do I follow orders because I'm a soldier, I was trained to, or do I follow my own question some of the orders I'm given? And then you got that, but then you got rebels. And so much wrong happened.
Hmm. I think the last episode I actually sat down and watched is when they were reunited with the clone guys on the desert planet.
Yeah, and that's actually that's the overall issue of Rebels is that they have the episodes they dedicate that are actually good are dedicated to callbacks to Rebels. I mean, callbacks to the Clone Wars. Ironic, isn't it?
Hmm.
And that, like I said, hell, I even love as much as I hate the Rebels show. I love what they did with Rex. They turned him into an old badass. Honestly, and like I said, he's not only him, but most of the other clones as well were incredibly creative. The survivors, I mean, they were incredibly memorable and kind of true to the characters. I mean, you had Captain Wolf, who, kind of went senile, which makes sense. I
Hmm.
mean, you saw you saw the prosthetic eye, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that could seriously leave someone traumatized. Well, a weaker person, but Wolf is Wolf. It's crazy. Just saying. And Gregor, for God's sakes. He was a commando, right?
Nope.
Guy was a freaking badass in his youth. I'm not even exaggerating. Took on an entire small army of droids just to get R2 and a few others out to safety. Survived the entire thing. Like I said, I have nothing but respect for that guy. Killed him off kind of badly in Rebels, which kind of pisses me off.
Yeah.
It's like you couldn't even do that right. It's like you son, I am disappointed.
Like the thing is, with Rebels, it feels too soft. If you ask me.
Exactly, that's it.
The darkest thing I ever saw in that series was when they are in that vehicle testing lab and the guy explodes. That's the
Oh
darkest thing
God,
I've
yeah,
seen, and that's it.
yeah, but that's the other issue. Anytime someone dies in Rebels, it's cut away really quickly, and you don't see it. It's just, oh, they died. It drains the tension and the shock of the death. And I'm not saying that in like, oh, I want that. You know what I mean? Like it removes a lot of the tension from that demise. Hell, actually, no. You know what's worse? As the series once again is coming to an end, they actually went through the trouble of trying to make it as dark as they did with the Clone Wars towards its end. And the biggest one I can think of is, um, what is in the final episode. There is a new experimental Imperial Walker, which is designed specifically. Actually, I have the image of it right here. Might as well just share it. Load, you stupid thing. There we go. Yeah, so this thing, as crazy as it looks, is actually supposed to be a weapon that kills everything but stormtroopers. You
I
wouldn't think that
remember
based on its
an episode of the Clone Wars where they meet those lemur people, and they invented a weapon
learning.
that only kills organic life forms, but not metallic. It's a fucking firebomb. That's all it does.
Well, well, it makes sense. I mean, you know, it's robots, so just. But no, so this thing's specific purpose is that it targets, it fires lightning. And the fucked up thing is that this thing is being tested on Mandalore, the homeworld of the Mandalorians. And their armor is incredibly conductive. And what's horrifying is you actually see the weapon fire, and you actually see it hit the. Actually, here is an image of it. Perfect. It's like I'm on fire right now.
Yay.
Oh god, I am on fire. Just start running around. Yeah, so this thing hits the armor, and according to lore and things of that nature, the Mandalorian steel, I think it's a Dura steel or something close to it, is almost impervious to blaster fire. Like blasters bounce off this thing. But its weakness is obviously too much heat or concentrated heat, electricity, etc., etc. Because this thing fires an electrical charge, it targets the Mandalorian's armor directly, and it fries them from the inside out, basically turning their greatest weapon into their greatest weakness.
Ouch.
It's honestly, in my opinion, it's smart. Like I'm not condoning this, mind you. I'm saying I see the practicality of it. All right? Let's everybody be clear about that. I don't condone weapons of mass destruction like this. All right? We all good? Good. It's like just calming the mob that comes outside. It's like, nope, I said it here. It's all here. It's all proofed. But anyway, like I said, it's a cunning weapon. And most of the new Mandalorians wear this kind of like stormtrooper-esque alloy, no longer the metal stuff. So they always survive this kind of the weapon's effect. Personally, I find it incredibly clever and useful. But that's it. That's the only thing I can see. It's these kinds of things that only happen in the Rebels. Everything else is incredibly just boring. To the point where I can't sit here and enjoy the series. I actually have to like turn off my brain for a second and say, nothing impressive is going to happen. Nothing amazing is going to occur. It's going to be the same shit. The heroes are always going to survive this. There's nothing that's going to happen. And I hate that. I really do hate that. You know, it really does piss me off. In fact, so much to the point that the other point that Rebels fails at is creating actual stakes and tension. Every time the main characters are on screen, you know flat out they're going to survive. There is no tension of them dying. It's not like with Ahsoka or Rex or any of the other clone troopers or characters that had a very real chance of dying. You know, and in Clone Wars, a lot of the clones you might have gotten used to being with, or even some of the one-off characters that appear, could die. And they never shied away from killing off the character. And it made you feel emotional. It made you feel actually, destroyed internally. But yet, when it comes to Rebels, very little to no one is killed. There's no stakes, no tension. Then we also got the characters themselves, the main cast, I should say. They are all so incredibly annoying and one note that I cannot sit there and enjoy them. I really can't. I think the only ones I actually liked about out of the group is their droid. That's about it.
Hmm.
And is that's saying a lot, isn't it? When the only character you enjoy in a series is the soulless robot, you know you fucked something up. The only reason why I like him so much is because he's he's basically the equivalent, a robotic equivalent of the crotchety old grandpa, and he's doing shit and actually, actually doing things in the series that is worth applauding. Like, despite his diminutive size, he actually takes on stormtroopers and fights them and survives it. Whereas everybody else is like, okay, and here comes the Jedi. Fish. Just everywhere. Again, that's terrible. That's honestly a terrible thing to have. Hell, even to be completely honest, the other thing I did enjoy, uh, actually, I do need to say this as well. Whenever the main characters are not in the episode or in the show at all, is when it's worth watching. I think to this day, my favorite episode out of this entire thing would have to be Two Sons, specifically at the end, when Maul finally meets up with Kenobi after well over 20 years now for one final showdown. And remind me, isn't Kuzi like the big Maul fan?
I thought that was you.
No.
Let
I
me
thought that
let
was
me
you.
ask him.
No,
He's
I ain't.
online. Let me ask him.
Yes, go bother him and tell him how much of a shit he is. No. No, I don't hate Maul. Let me clarify. I don't hate Maul. I just don't like him that much. I don't know. Just something about him doesn't click in the right way, you
For
know?
me, I didn't think he needed to be brought back for the Clone Wars. Yeah, he was a
This is a
Darth
weird.
Maul fan. He is.
Okay. Well, I just want to say your tastes are shit. No, I'm kidding. But this is the thing. Darth Maul has always kind of had an influence in the like material before the whole rewriting occurred. And actually, in one of the stories, which it was part of the old canon, Darth Maul was actually still around, but he was actually still around as and I'm not joking, by the way, as a brain in a jar.
What?
Yeah, I'm actually looking it up right now. It was a thing. The basic premise of the story was a scientist who I believe was force sensitive or knew of the force wanted to bring Darth Maul back from the dead because what was it? He was extremely powerful with the force and he wanted to like bring the dark side back. But because Maul's body has long since been dead and decayed, there was nothing he could do except um, what was it? Except bring back the brain. And when he brought back uh, Maul's brain, he also created a holographic display system, which what was it? Which could use the Force. Hold on, I screwed something up. Which could use the Force to extreme effect, and he was actually hunting down Luke years and years later. But unfortunately, the every time he got too angry or exerted too much force power, the hologram would fade away, and there was no way to really fix it. Luke tracks that hatred down, and then just discovers Maul's brain just in this cybernetically contained tank, if I can find it.
Wow.
You you would think Darth Maul brain in a jar would have more images, but no. I guess I can't find it. Fuck. Well, you're gonna have to take my word about it. It's a real thing. It happened. I mean, it's not canon anymore, but still, Plus, anyway, Mole was also brought back previously, actually. Years and years and years ago, he was brought back with the same body, mind you. And I might as well show it. I believe in a story called Red Sand or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. And it was basically like a little. What I loved it was that in this story specifically, when Mole finally catches up with Obi-Wan on Tatooine, he goes in to explain that he's been following Obi-Wan ever since the events of Phantom Menace, secretly, and always in the shadows, but always one step behind Obi-Wan. Even going so far as to explain that he tracked him all the way from Mustafar and saw someone burning on the lava reef, thinking it was Obi-Wan, then went to various other worlds till finally he made it to Tatooine and went after Obi-Wan, hearing legends about some crazy old hermit in the desert. So Mole coming back as a cyborg has been a thing in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the design was much more crazy, and actually, I kind of prefer the idea that his horns could actually grow so large into a crown. Personally, I think that's incredibly creative. I mean, in lieu of hair, I suppose.
It sounds like they want to watch a movie upstairs. Oh boy.
Alright, okay. Anyway, but the story just kind of ended quickly. Maul gets shot in the head by Owen. Obi-Wan buries the body, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And and when we, in Rebels, they kind of bring that idea back, except it's more like a duel. A final showdown between two elderly people. And I get everyone's not Go ahead.
An old man versus a brain shard. That sounds very familiar, like Dexter's Laboratory.
Mm.
Because that actually happens.
Like it took her a moment to realize, like, wait a minute. But no, what I'm saying here is that in Rebels, like everyone was so pissed off. It's like, oh, quickly and blah 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 blah. And to this, I have to say to everyone, they're both 60-year-old men. There was no way this fight was going to end in any other way.
Yeah, my mom and my brother are arguing upstairs. Dear gods.
Right. It's like you show me 60-year-old men fighting each other like 20 and then come back to me. That's all I'm going to say about that one. It's like, anyway. Sorry, like I said. But that's my point. Rebels worked best when it didn't have the main characters in it. And it worked like a sort of... Oh god, what's the word? Not a prologue. What's the other one? It's... Oh god. Why do I keep thinking prologue? It wasn't prologue. It's...
Prequel?
What happens after...
Sequel?
No. After a story's finished. But there's still something else to say.
Spiritual successor or something like that?
No, it's...
That's usually what it is. Like, spiritual successor, a sequel. That's basically it.
No. I mean, still within the same story, but there's like one little bit of story left to say. Like after the endings happen, just in the same story. What's it called? Prologue?
Yeah, it is. Prologue.
Yeah, well, if Rebels was just a series, which it was, if they played it like one giant prologue after the Clone Wars ended, I think it would have been better. I legitimately think the series should have followed several characters from Clone Wars going into the future, dealing with the Empire. That's what I think it should have been, like flat out. Because more people would have. I tell. Like I said, I'm gonna be honest. I think more people would watch it if the series was just that. People just following the series, just directly after the Clone Wars, plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it had to be. But no, Disney said, no, make this instead, and then
Yeah, because they got to show like the in between.
which nobody cares for.
Nobody wanted.
Exactly. Like
Rogue One did that for us. We don't need this.
exactly, and it did it well.
Mm-hmm.
It bridged the gap. Well, not the super big gap between 3 and 4, but it bridged events leading to 4, which worked extremely well.
The thing is, like, we don't need to be told what was going on in between. Like, we can get a good idea. These two factions have been fighting each other for a long time. We don't need to know the details. Life was lost. That's it.
Well, exactly. Lives were lost, people's lives were ruined, worlds were destroyed. There's no need for a giant, uh, whole entire things dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but by that same extent, the only sort of pre-episode, pre-episode 4, post-episode 3 thing that does the whole what was it like as during the intermediate, like the what's not intermediate, the in between of these two events was the Force Unleashed, and that did it really well. Like
Yep.
for example,
Yep.
Yeah, like the beginning of it is incredibly good. It's Siege of Kashyyyk. You get to witness how like how the old worlds of the Republic just slowly, one after the other, probably just started getting completely destroyed by the Empire. You see Vader kill a Jedi right then and there, and it gives you the idea, like, yeah, he probably did this to everybody else. Then when you get to play as Starkiller, you see the starting of rebels, like small terrorist cells against the Empire, but it's never the rebellion. It's just kind of starting off, and you're the thing that kind of pushes the rebellion to start. The sequel kind of drops the ball slightly on that front, but it still gets its point across, and I think it does it well. Rebels, Rebels is no.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, the whole premise of the show was the story of how the rebellion started. But yet they abandoned that concept in season 1, revealing that the rebellion has it's just really small now, and now it's gotten much larger thanks to this woman giving a speech. What? It's just a
Mm-hmm.
failure. Hell, even the what's it called? It's like watching Clone Wars, and then suddenly the series doesn't pick up with like the big war. Instead, it's just how the clones were starting to get made, and da. It's just a bunch of bullshit.
Yep.
And like I said, in my honest opinion, I think this encompasses why the failures that has been Disney with Star Wars, and that has been they failed to understand what Star Wars is like, and they just keep rehashing the same old shit, hoping people don't notice. But unfortunately, if Solo's anything to go off of, nobody's buying it anymore.
I miss when Star Wars was strictly Cartoon Network.
Same.
Like,
Same.
we're talking about this, and I'm suddenly thinking of that 2D animation Clone Wars series that they had. Like, that was really cool. I really wanted to watch that stuff, and I don't like Star Wars. And it was
I think
really
it's
well done.
because
Like, that's the kind of in between stuff you want to see.
exactly, and the thing about the original Clone Wars, which I think is why you might like it so much, is because it does so much outside of Star Wars. It isn't just Obi-Wan and Anakin. It's more. There are more people there.
We
More,
get to see who the hell Grievous is and what happened to him.
and how. Mhm.
We get to see how cool Windu was.
With his Force karate.
Oh god, that was the last episode I managed to see. I love that. I want to know what the hell that giant ship thing was exactly.
It's a seismic tank.
Mm.
You know, the on a side note, you know that Grenier tank,
Yep,
the one with the belly, same thing.
just much bigger.
Yeah. Actually, funnily enough, I did a little research. Turns out those vehicles, they weren't meant for war. They're actually supposed to help mine.
I'm not surprised.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. It's like let me pound the earth and let people kind of go in on their own.
Yeah, but
And
the 2D animation series let you learn about characters during the events of the prequels. Granted, like when you're younger, the prequels look amazing and you love them, but when you get older, you see how terrible they are. We
from a
still
writing
we
perspective,
still want to learn what happened in between each of them because each movie brought in a character we had never seen before, and the characters
exactly,
act as though they've been there the whole time.
exactly. In fact, what I really enjoy about the oh, by the way, first off, I also need to, the series was actually created by the same guy who did Samurai Jack.
I know. I recognize the art style.
Yeah, I'm just letting everyone know. It's like, yeah, that same guy. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm amazed
I used to
he
love
resisted.
Samurai Jack.
I'm amazed he resisted the urge to include like a Samurai Jack cameo somewhere. I would have liked it just as a little nod, you know. I would have been okay with that, but still. And plus, what I like about Clone Wars is they show you conflict, like how the war was actually going from multiple fronts. My favorite bit about that is, I believe towards season 2, there was an entire montage dedicated to the CIS winning. You know, you see how they treat planets they capture. People are enslaved. Civilians are beaten into submission. Defenses are destroyed. Clone troopers are actually captured and put at gunpoint. That's something you wouldn't see from any other series, and yet they tackled this so well that it looks amazing, and I loved
They
it.
they also like they did underlining uh like I want to say tidbits, but like they did shout out to things that most people are not very comfortable accepting being a thing.
All right.
And like what episode I'm going to be talking about here. That frog-looking Jedi that hated the clones and pitted them against each other.
Yes,
That
General Prong Krell.
I hate that guy, but you have to admit he is he's embodying something that humans, like people today, do not want to accept. That this is happening all the time.
Hmm. And to be honest, to me, and this has always been my strong point. I despise the Clone Wars, the war itself, not the series or anything like that. Let me specify that. Specifically because of the massive waste of life that it was. Like again, to me, the clones weren't carbon copy, despite the actual name being clone. But to me, they weren't carbon copies that should have been just numbered. To me, these were people. These were men going off to battle, and most of them would never come back.
I like
I
that.
actually
I
felt.
like that they actually highlight that. Um,
Hmm.
they they're showing us like through the like from an outside perspective. The people in this universe only see them as carbon copies. They have names, yes, and personalities, but at the end of the day, they're replicas. They can create more. So there's lots and lots and lots of them being killed needlessly. And we, as the outside looking in, we're seeing these personalities. We're seeing these people being thrown away. We don't like
Exactly.
it, but in their universe, it's happening
Common.
regardless. Yeah.
In fact, there is in one of the Clone Wars games, there is a moment where Cad Bane, the bounty hunter,
Hmm.
captures Rex and kicks. and he has them like with these very impressive bomb manacles on the wrists, and he tells them, "Look, you're going to help me move this thing, and if you don't do it, I'm going to push this detonator." I believe it's Kix who asks, "What's that for?" And then Rex immediately identifies it and says, "It's for the explosives hidden in our bindings." And immediately, Bane, without a fault, says, "Well, clones are smarter than droids." Again, this is implying that clones and droids have the same form of intelligence.
This is also implying that people view uh, clones as like just a general thing, clones and droids as being lesser.
Exactly. Again, a droid is a mass-produced thing. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, you'll get the individual droid, but that's programming. There's no soul behind it.
yeah.
Whereas a clone is a living, breathing creature. And no matter how perfect you do the cloning method, those individual experiences will shape the personality, and they'll become someone unique and different. Always.
Another episode
Again,
that like really makes you feel that for the clones and how unique and different they are is when there's that assault on the facility that clones the clones, and like you see the younger versions of them.
Camino, yeah.
Yeah, and they're fighting back. Like even the kids are fighting back. You and like
Yeah,
you're watching this and you know in the back of your mind like that clone is not going to be the same after this.
hmm and what and that's impressive. Like I said, this was the closest thing they had to a home, and by God, fought to the bitter end to protect it.
Yep.
Hell, Rex put it the best. If someone's coming to threaten our home, they better be bringing a big ass blaster. And I couldn't agree more. Though I do have to mention,
I remember one of the
go ahead.
older ones like addressed the kids like they came here to fight clones. Well, let's show them what these clones can do, something like that. I'm
hmm
trying to remember what he says exactly, but something along those lines.
Yeah, but the other thing I also have to mention is that both series actually avoided a topic mentioned in the books, specifically the first Attack of the Clones. And during the assault, the first battle of Geonosis specifically, Anakin leads a small squadron of clone troopers against, I believe it's a spider tank or something close to it.
Yeah.
And he notices that some of the clones are shorter than the others. And when he asks them, he quickly realizes that these aren't full-grown clones. They actually didn't have enough numbers to start the war, and most of them were in fact children being sent in. I'm actually happy that never made it into, like, I hate that with
Yeah.
a passion. Still, like I said, it showed you how little even the Kaminoans cared about their creations. It's like, just send them out. It doesn't matter if they're ready or not.
Yeah.
Horrifying thing, all things considering.
Hmm.
But again, this is something I'm actually, funnily enough, you mentioned how most people didn't care about or didn't view clones as people, right?
Hmm.
There's a moment in Rebels, another one is one of the better moments. An Imperial officer offers Rex to be reinstated into the military, but he says that due to the fact he's a clone, he won't be serving on the front lines, but rather as an instructor in some backwater academy. When Rex refuses, he becomes malicious and says, "I'm going to dispose of you, not like a soldier with honors, but like a piece of cheap, obsolete hardware." It's a horrifying thing to think about, really. Because even after so long, people still view clones as nothing. Again, no better than a machine.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like I said, this I guess our thoughts on all this simple. Clone Wars tackled issues, events, and characters in a very believable and real way, to the point where we can say both versions of the series, the 2D and the 3D, were very well done. I believe our favorite things, really, out of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But Rebels drops the ball so hard that I honestly think it would have been better as some kid Saturday morning cartoon completely.
Yeah.
And that's never a good thing.
Anyway, should we move
All
on to
right.
our last topic?
Yep, and this one is going to be a bit of a controversial. So, No Man's Sky
Oh
has
boy.
gotten a massive update. And I'm not talking like something. You remember the previous one where it added like base building and minor things to the game, right?
Yep.
Just very, very minor. This isn't like that. This update is twice the size of that, like legitimately twice the size, with a lot more shit to it. First off, on top of the base building, we actually get to drive ground vehicles.
Yay.
So we actually get to go from point A to point B without having to fly our derptacular ship that is known to crash and burn or glitch out. I'm actually just going to be sharing some of the images here and there. So yeah, a lot of interesting vehicles, a big-ass tanker, a little rover, and a hover. Actually, I like the hover car. It's kind of cool.
A lot of
You know
a lot
what?
of the screenshots that I see is like that group of people standing on a hill. I'm curious about that.
I don't know either. Oh, the group of people standing on a. Yeah, I was gonna bring up the next one. The next bit of the update is they added a third-person mode and multiplayer.
Yay.
You can actually go. You can actually go with your friends and grind for hours, being bored out of your mind. Isn't that fun? Joy. And another aspect, I think, is that I think you can choose which species you spawn in. So, like human, robot, etc., etc.
Some frog looking thing.
Yeah, they're actually what's it called? In game, they're the traders of the species or of the series. The whole species is built on trading and buying and bartering.
Yeah.
So kind of like the corpus, I suppose. Only
Okay, then I might like them, even though I don't like frogs.
yeah, well, they're incredibly well. From what information I got, they're not very hostile. Actually, they release pheromones if they're very happy. It's described as sweet, yet not overly sweet, like honey.
Mm.
Hey, if they can do that if they're pleased, it's like okay, I'm gonna tickle you to the day. So long as you keep producing me with fresh.
What?
So long as you so long as you keep producing me with fresh honey scented home.
Incense.
Ex-
No, no, no. It's like a car freshener, air freshener for your car.
Exactly. Sentient air fresheners.
Oh, great! Somebody brought their dog in. Well, time to tickle our friend.
he just he starts making that frog noise, tree frog noise.
It looks
They
now
also
that I'm looking at it better. It looks more like a hamster that's bald.
the species. Remember when we were talking all about that whole different zombies looking thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same thing. Basically, it's the same base model, but they change the species aesthetics each time you meet a new one. So it's never the same one twice.
Wow.
Yeah, again, that's one of the few things I said No Man's Sky pre-patch was good about. It actually made you feel like you were on different worlds. Hell, even the new animations have become incredibly creative. The Sentinel robots actually have better animations now. Like there are new types, like a walker version, dogs, things of that nature.
Yeah.
The third person mode is actually a welcomed addition because now you can actually see what you look like, which is kind of cool. I think combat's was overhauled. Resource collecting is no longer as obnoxious as it was in the base game.
I'm still not interested in it. I tried watching Paul Source Jr. play it, and I got bored within like 2 minutes, and then I clicked away. Which is saying something because he's very entertaining.
In my humble opinion, I believe more of a game you have to experience.
Yeah.
Because it is like this is me defending Sean Murray and Hell second, but the game itself delivers on what it promises. It is a giant galaxy, and this is your story. So, like I said, it's a game you have to play. You can't watch somebody else play it because you're just getting half the experience.
Yeah, kind of like Skyrim. It's really hard to get a good audience when you play Skyrim on your channel.
Exactly. It's the problem is it's your experience. It's not their experience.
And again, I know of one channel that's making that successful, and I'm rooting for them because it's adorable. It's this like 80 to 90-year-old woman, like this little old lady that calls her subscribers grandkids, and she's playing Skyrim.
Oh,
it's adorable. I love it.
She's too sweet. But as you can imagine, my only thought entire thing, or sorry, like I said, this game, No Man's Sky, does have its problems. I'm not saying nobody lied. It's clear now that it was Sean Murray and everybody else kind of shot their mouths off too much because it didn't. What they promised didn't come out, so a lot of people thought they were lying. But in reality, they kept their promise. They added multiplayer, like they said. They made the worlds expansive, all unique, all creative, like they said. They've changed up a lot of other things with the UI, make it more creative, everything of that nature. So, how do I feel about that? Well, honestly, I'm mixed. I'm really mixed. I don't know if we should applaud this because it kind of encourages people, developers, I should say, to release half-assed games at launch, more so than usual, I mean. And then over the course of years, add more things so it becomes the game it was meant to be at launch. You know? And this is what I mean. It's a slippery slope. However, by that standard, I can give Hello Games and Sean Murray in general a sort of pass on this, really, because they are a small team of developers. They're not like EA or Division. They're not nearly as big as that.
Yep.
And so the fact that they actually went back into the game and have added all this stuff and have tried to make it a game where it is what it was supposed to be at launch and have actually given 110% to try and make this better than it was, I think we should commend them. I honestly think we should say, all right, you know what? It took years, but you delivered on your promises, and I have no animosity towards you. And that's saying a lot, especially for me. I'm very final on certain things. It's true. If I say you're shit, you're always going to be shit.
Oh no, I'm giggling because like, did they improve the randomized critters?
I want to say yes, but at the same time, I'm not so sure. Again,
okay,
this
because I
update
rediscovered the one with the really crappy Jurassic Park.
Well,
I love that video.
But here's the thing I want to say, though. To be honest, we don't know much about the changes as of right now, since this update kind of came out like 2 days ago, and people are still kind of exploring everything, especially multiplayer now. So, again, I guess time will tell. I mean, maybe give us 2 more weeks. We'll check it. We'll probably have more information, come back to everybody, and then we'll say, yeah, the critters have been improved or not. Which I'm going to be completely honest about this as well, flat out. I honestly think they should have not made it so randomizer heavy and maybe just have like certain creature body types that would be just pre-made and then randomize the aesthetics of the beasts slowly, you know?
Yeah.
Like if it's a creature, like if the planet is mostly land, then maybe just have either quadrupeds or two-legged creatures that can only spawn and then just leave it at that. Or if it's a planet with no ground, have creatures that fly more. Just saying, I think that would have been a better idea than randomize everything and hope for the best.
Mhm.
Oh, I almost forgot. Frigates and ships have also been heavily improved from the original, so now they work
Yay.
different. So if you ever want to play or role play Star Fox properly, now's your chance.
That. Mm, I don't think that's what Star Fox is about.
Well, you know what I mean. Like have the actual ship and then have your friends fly out with you in
Oh.
Star
Oh, yeah,
Fox
yeah, yeah.
formation. Yeah, that's what I mean. Or Mass Effect if you want. You are now your own Commander Shepard of your own little planet. Congratulations. Now you can pretend to have bad sex with your friends.
No. I still love
Yeah.
Rex. He's still my favorite.
Yes, Rex is amazing. Yeah, maybe
Yay.
we should do that for a topic next week. Look back at Mass Effect. All right then.
How
Oh
long
dear, I
till
don't.
HH starts flirting with every Krogan in the universe? That's
Give
essentially
me
what it'll turn into.
five. I just saw one of the critters now. I think the randomizer is still broken.
Oh, God.
Um, yeah, it's certainly something.
Yay.
I love the face, just "Nyeh." Oh man, it's the reverse of the T-Rex. I have long arms but a tiny head.
Oh, God. I can actually hear it making that noise, too. Nyeh. Nyeh. Oh my God, I gotta show this. I definitely gotta show this. Oh, I
The
wish I could share the
knee-Rex.
video, too. Nyeh.
Oh man, the Knee-Rex. Nyeh. Hear the majestic sound of the Knee-Rex. Nyeh. Oh dear.
Oh, what does this
Uh,
podcast turn into? This, like,
it's turned it.
No Man's Sky is like my addiction to reading Warframe names. It's stupid, but it's good.
Hmm.
It's just like a train wreck, and you're wondering, like, should I put it out of its misery or not?
Exactly. Just no, I'm gonna sit here and watch
I'm just
this.
gonna walk away.
And watch as this derpy dinosaur tries to get me. As it flails its tiny little forelimbs. Yeah. But no, I guess this sums up our opinions of No Man's Sky's latest up. I mean, hopefully, I actually hope this succeeds. If it was all actually improved and altered, then good on them. If not, then well, hmm, I guess they failed. And no amount of fixes is ever going to change that.
Oh no!
Oh yeah.
I'm starting to search for more No Man's Sky's failed creature. Oh God, what have I done?
Oh yes, the the leg day dinosaur.
Super grumpy. What the fuck is going on?
Exactly, super grump.
You've heard of the Game Grumps? Well, now there is Super Grump, who actually isn't very grumpy. They're just very stupid.
No, this is the Game Grumps pet, their mascot. It's like Jobby the Hong and his Godzilla noise. So,
Gods, what are these creatures?
God got high one day and decided to
I found
make
a horsefly.
Yeah, that's actually always been part of the game.
I found something very creepy.
Oh no.
Well, first, take a look at the chubby worm.
It's the market player creature.
I have a gif of that. Oh.
God.
Okay, we're good.
Oh yeah, I've seen this. I don't even know what that is.
I don't know either.
I think I'll just call it the mollusk worm.
This is like when you give a toddler spore and just let them go crazy.
Exactly. This is another thing I need to say about this guy. It really needs to ditch the spore-ish aesthetics. Like it
Yeah,
really
just
needs
like
to
mellow it out. Definitely mellow it
Exactly.
out.
Like a lot of these creatures look like they're still fresh off the Blender assembly line. Like I honestly think they need to like do something. Like honestly.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what? Maybe just create certain alien fauna always be in the game. Maybe just do that. Just saying.
Well, I found something that looks like a cross between a catfish and those really weird big-eared people from Star Trek.
All right.
I'm sorry. We should definitely like try to wrap up the podcast. 'Cause I'm still browsing.
I've been trying. I've been trying to wrap up the podcast, and you keep
Sorry.
bringing up critters.
I can't stop.
It's like an addiction. Oh god, yeah, that ugly fucker. All right, well, I'll wrap it up then. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us tonight at Left for Random Talk. I've been Rev. This has been HH, and we hope
Hi.
you all have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.
Bye. I'm gonna play the outro music. I like to announce this nowadays. I'm not going to ask you to click the link or the creeper face. The link is for YouTube, creeper face is for Twitch, just to iterate. It's not actually going to help us. So I'm going to say this at the end of every single episode. Share the stream links. Always share the stream links. It really helps us when you do that, to get us out there. I am working on the on getting us. Oh crap! I can't talk right now. I am working on the inner details behind the creeper face and the link, and of course getting bits. Just for now, don't do that because it's not going to help us. Getting the word out there, like getting our show and like the stream links out there, that helps us. So we encourage that. But for now, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next Thursday for Left for Random Talk. And I'll try to get back into streaming every day with Warframe. I've been lacking, like, falling behind on that. I'll try. But we'll see you guys later. Yep.